Mr. Hillary, welcome. Welcome to the Big Conversations by Ordinary People podcast.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Yes, welcome everyone. My name is Kenneth, and with me today is our first guest on our second season. This is Mr. Hillary Bamulinde, who is an oil and gas expert in Uganda. He also runs a couple of other businesses and he has a much bigger story to tell. And today, this is the biggest reason we bring him to you. We want to explore the person behind Mr. Hillary. So yeah, Mr. Hillary, one thing that we are trying to do, maybe this will give you a little bit of context, is what we believe is that before the cultures come to Africa, we'll say, I don't want to say foreigners because apparently even Bantu people were foreigners to Africa before. But in sub-Saharan Africa before the other cultures, the Arabs and the white people come to Africa, the Africans had their own art form. And the most significant of that art form was the art of conversation. Children were taught through stories. The parents sort of made trade and all that. And most of the big lessons that moved within history were not written down or drawn or sculptured. They were told through stories. And we feel like today is probably the best time for us to put fire back into that culture. That is what we want to do right now. We want to draw the portrait of Mr. Hillary Bamulinde through conversation, and that is
Thank you.
that is the biggest reason we have you here. Thank you very much for accepting to be part of this. So to start off the conversation, Mr. Hillary, I'm wondering whether you could give us a little bit of why you think the beginning of Hillary is. Most people, they say I was born this year, but when is that time where you started to realize maybe this is slightly how my future is going to look, this is how my life is going to look, this is how Hillary is going to look? Yeah.
All right. Thank you very much, Kenneth. Happy to be here. I actually picked interest in your podcast, major because of its theme, big conversations for ordinary people. And I believe I'm as ordinary as ordinary guests.
That is debatable, but okay.
Well, my name is Hillary Bamulinde. Most people think I'm much older than I actually am. I guess because of my background and the things I'm involved in. But I'll tell you a little bit about who I am. Born in Western Uganda, raised in Masaka, so I speak more Luganda than my mother tongue. I went on to study in Kampala, then university, did a degree in social sciences, and I went on to do a master's in procurement and logistics from Salford University in Manchester. That is there's a whole book in those few lines I've said.
I can imagine. Yes.
I know we can't finish that in 1 hour, but after my master's, I worked a little bit in Ghana for about 4 or 5 months as a procurement consultant. Came back to Uganda, and I worked with 2 companies, Umeme Limited and Talo Oil. In between, I left one, worked with another, and came back to the other one. So it speaks a lot as well about probably by my work ethic. It's not common for someone to leave a job, go away 4 years, and come back to that same job, especially in my kind of profession that is riddled with accusations of all sorts of things. Yeah, so that's a little bit about my professional background. I'm married with 4 children. Got married at a very young age. I think I was 26. Retired at 36. And now I do a little bit of this and that in between playing golf.
Oh, I see. So you consider yourself retired right now?
Well, yes, I think so. Yeah, it's something I've worked on. I planned it. I didn't just wake up and say, "Oh, I'm annoyed with so and so. I'm annoyed with this. Let me retire." No, I planned it. I had a plan, had goals. I've always I'm a supply chain specialist by profession, but I've always been a trader by design. It's something I've done for so many years. So yes, I have interest in a number of businesses ranging from real estate, hospitality, to small cottage, all sorts of things, import and trade. Yeah, I've done Chikubo, which didn't work. I've done many things that didn't work. I've done a few that have worked.
Yeah.
So some of them have been hit and miss, learn on the go.
Yeah. What is almost interesting for me here is that you've had the opportunity to go see the rest of the world, but you decide to come back. I know personally many people, even my own family members, have a couple of siblings who, when they got a chance to leave Uganda, that was it. They were like, yeah, we've seen the greener pastures and we are not coming back to eat rice straw. Yeah. So what is it that is inspiring you to come back to Uganda and, even retire back home?
I traveled to the UK the first time when I was in my first year university vacation. With a statement that I don't remember who it was to apply for the visa. So it was just a try. And then I borrowed money for a ticket from a mom to a very good friend of mine. And went, worked, saw the life. And from then I determined that, you know what, I love the money in the UK, but I didn't love the robotic life. It's a very hard life, and that wasn't for me. Yes, I did it. I did my... what they would say, you paid school fees. I paid my school fees. I learned what I learned. I got the exposure. But what you'd call fulfillment was always back home.
I see.
Because it's even way after that, when I was studying for my master's and doing 2 jobs, and you're working in a members club at night, you work for a bank from 8 to midday, and then go to uni in the afternoon. You basically live like a robot. There are days when I would probably sleep for 3 hours in a space of 3 days. There are times I would come from the club at 5 a.m., shower and sit in my car with my 2 phones on alarm, because if I entered bed, I will not wake up. Just waiting to go to the next job. So you can imagine that kind of life. It's not easy. It's not easy, but I had a goal. I had something I wanted to achieve. I wanted to get my master's degree, and then I knew that with that I can come and competitively get a job back home. It wasn't cheap paying for that master's. You're talking £10,000 15 years ago. That was probably enough money to buy me 5 acres in Chanja then.
Exactly.
Or probably more.
I mean,
but I decided that, instead of me going back with money, I'll go back with the qualification. So I believe the qualification will open more doors for me than coming back with some money.
What inspires you to do that? Because for me now, for example, from again what I've seen and my own perspective right now, if you gave me, say, if we factor in inflation and say maybe 10,000 would be equivalent to say 50,000 right now. If you gave me 50,000 right now and told me, go and pay for, even if you're giving me an opportunity to go to school in Harvard, and the alternative is to stay here and try to hustle, the Ugandan way. I feel like that 50,000 I'll be more productive using it here in the hustle. What motivates you to see?
I tell people that money is not money in its form. I always look at money as the opportunity it enables me to pursue or achieve. I could spend 50 million shillings on a party, and someone will look at it and say that is very lavish. But you don't know. Maybe I have 2-3 people that I've targeted to come to that party, and we might have a conversation from that party that will probably use much more than the money I've spent on it. So it's not good to look at money in that frame of money. I tend to look at it as what does it enable me to achieve.
Yeah, I see.
And that's why I decided to spend that money pursuing a master's degree. Yet I could have come back, and I believe I would have been an instant millionaire among my friends. Back then, because most people were earning less than £500 then. Actually, even much less than that a month. But I spent that in a year to pursue a qualification.
One of the disciplines that I enjoy a lot, it's sort of an emergent form of science called complexity. It's, I think, a mix of a little bit of physics and economics and the science of economics. And one of these, there's a topic there about chaos theory, where sort of in mathematics, if you have an equation and you put an input, you can predict what the output would be. But in chaos theory, there is that form of nonlinear mathematics where if the variation within the inputs does not necessarily predict the variation within the outputs. And sort of that kind of complexity, I feel like, is what most people fail to comprehend in real life. They think if you spend 50,000 as the input, they see it as a loss on a party, for example. They see it as a loss. They don't know that you have your own chaos theory formula somewhere that the output cannot be determined linearly. Yeah. So
True,
I
true.
don't.
Yeah,
I understand.
it's not a straight line.
I really understand that. But Hillary, I also the one thing that for me, from the story of yours that I've had, and maybe we shall dig deeper as we go forward. You come to Uganda, you work like normal people have worked, but you managed to set up all these businesses. What is it that you manage to do better than other people? Is it getting connections to other people? Is it saving a lot more? Is it being extremely luckier than all of us? Because I see that you have not had the envelope. I've not seen you yet on TV receiving the envelope. But what is this that you're doing better than most people? What is it you see that we don't see?
Information.
Okay.
The value of information.
Okay.
We all have information around us, but most people never monetize or try to commoditize the information they receive. It passes us like guys in Uganda. I always say that everything is like a rumor. Yeah, you hear that this and this is happening, and you talk about it, and that's it. But that is something I capitalized on. I saw that happening a lot in UK. UK people don't have opportunities that we have here. That you invest maybe in land and this mainly stock exchange. Yeah. So information is very powerful. Yeah, you're hearing, you're learning, you're hearing what is happening in Japan, and maybe these guys are putting out a prototype, and you hear another company is planning to buy that prototype. That's information. You start planning. You start talking to your brokers. I want to get in on this. I want to get in on this gig. Yeah. And that is something that people did not capitalize. So when I came back, I was hearing, I was listening. Whenever I would hear someone say, "Oh no, Nigeria is coming up," I've had that. I keep it at the back of my mind. Next time I hear someone say, "Oh, someone is actually struggling and they're selling a piece of land in Nigeria," say, "How much is it?" 20 million. So, but that's a bit out of range. Maybe you negotiate to 16 or 15 and deposit on it. I've always told people you don't need to have a full sum to buy land. Once you deposit it, you've booked it. You've locked in someone. Then you try your best to pay as quick as possible, but if you fail, the other person also is tied in. They can't refund your money. So that's how I did most of I was banking on the information I was hearing around and trying to see what can I do. Maybe even the organization I'm working with, what are their expansion plans? What are they looking to go into next? And how can I use that information to my advantage?
Yeah, that is wow. So that is actually the last thing I would have thought about. Yeah, but I totally see how that makes sense. And again, most of my background also is mostly formal education. So I see when I read a little about say the stock market, for example, I see how these people set up all these computers to aggregate information from all these sort of very many data points, so they can use that to make bets on stocks and things like that. But that I've always seen it as sort of a course unit in data science. I've never thought of it from that perspective as now I know that Nigeria land is
ideally,
up and coming.
the simplest way to put it is you know something that someone else doesn't know, and they could pay anything for it. So by virtue of what I know and you don't know, I'll sell it to you at my price. Maybe you'll find out the price later, but I'll find another buyer maybe for a different item. And that's why I tell you that I've always been in trading, because banking on my exposure in UK and what I'd seen, and I was very advanced on using, say, computer and doing searches and records. I had an idea which websites to go to and all that. So you could probably be talking to you and you're younger, you survey, you just come out and you're looking for survey equipment. Maybe your dad has a bit of money and you're telling me about it. And the next thing I'm telling you, by the way, I can get you all this survey kit. And you're like, you're wowed. Yes, you've read about it, but you've actually never seen it. You don't even know how to get it here. But from that exposure, I know how I can buy things from UK. I know how I can buy things from Germany, ship them to UK, and then get the UK contact ship them to me, and that kind of thing. And then I built on that, then started going to full-time trade, bringing container loads of different items, China, Dubai. Like I said, I did Chikubo as well. In theory, we all say there's a lot of money in Chikubo. Yes, I tried it. I didn't turn out as most people say. I also realized that maybe that was not my kind of space, right? Because also the people you're competing with are not as maybe not in UK, but like they say, you're putting too much English in informal economy, and sometimes it doesn't work. So yeah.
Okay, so yeah, wow, this is very interesting. What I'm also curious to understand is, do you have like these? So for some people it's sort of intuitive, and I know like at the basic core of it, we are all very near to machines. Yeah, but for most people, we have these heuristics that we keep at the back of our minds, and I can look at say for artists, for example, yeah, they can look at a scene and say this is beautiful, yeah, and we don't know it, but when they take a picture of what they see, then from the picture you actually notice that there's some beauty there, but you've been looking at the same scene forever. But this, I think, is the same thing with business people. Is you look at a society, for example, or an economy, and within the heuristics you've kept at the back of your mind that maybe you're also not very conscious of, you know that this has some potential in it. Yeah. Do you have a formula that you know that you pass your things through? You know, when you read most of these books from the West, these guys claim to be extremely empirical. You know, they claim to be that they put everything under calculations. Therefore, their consultants run the numbers, and they're making very, very extreme rational decisions to the point. Yeah. Do you do the same? Is it extremely rational, empirical calculations, or do you think this is just who you are, Hillary? You see things, you go in, if it fails or if it works.
Yeah. Well, there's a bit of rationality, but there's also a bit of gut. Okay. Yeah. And I think I've done a number of things based on gut feeling. I've lost a lot of money investing on gut feeling, but I've also made a lot of money investing on gut feeling. So I say there's no clear path. I'd say it's not gray and white. I say it's a mixture of many things. Rationality, yes. Gut, very important. If you have second thoughts, maybe not. If it's too good to be true, probably it is. But one thing I always say, that especially for us here, where we're still developing, whatever you see working in Europe, whatever you see working in America, it's a matter of time. Okay. It's a matter of time to get here. And I always give an example of funeral services. Many years ago, not many, about 13, 14 years ago, when funeral services started in Uganda, most people laughed at that. Most people said, "Oh, how do you make money off dead people?" It was unheard of, it was uncouth. But now, even a border guy gets an accident, he's taken to the funeral home. So it's now become normal. And in the likes of Europe, it's been there for hundreds of years. So I've already told people I have this business idea that I haven't put into practice yet, but I know at some point I will do it, and that is to set up a private cemetery, and we'll sell people graves. You book your space, maybe you book space for you and your wife. Maybe it will be 1 million or 500,000 shillings. Who knows? But you know you'll be living on your nice piece of land in Nigeria with a nice house, but you're not going back to cover it. Maybe the family land is not there anymore. So this will come in handy. I know the first part I told about, but Hillary loves money too much. You are now want to sell graves. No, actually, I'm not looking at it as, I'm looking at it as I would be selling convenience. I'd be selling something that personally I would love to be buried in a very nice graveyard. My kids 50 years down the road can bring flowers and whatever. If you bury me in Chanja at my house, maybe my son 20 years down the road will say, but we are sitting in a gold mine. Let's take this guy to the well. So, see what I mean? There's some things that can, at this stage, are seen as, that can't work. But you read, research. If you see that this and that has worked in Europe, same thing as mortgages. Mortgages were not common here. People think, oh, okay, this block of apartments, I buy a condominium. Who owns the land? So for people, that was the mentality. Someone is like, okay, I'm on the third floor, but who owns the land? So people want to feel that ownership. That's why you see a lot of companies struggle to raise capital, because people have this thing of who is the biggest shareholder. He wants to maintain 90%. So he would rather have 90% of a 100 million shilling business than have 3% of a 10 billion shilling business. So that is the mentality. But things are changing a little bit.
Wait, and how does it change? Because here now I'm going to confess a little bit that you're starting to hit home for me. I'm also very uncomfortable with the situation where I see the potential for conflict. For example, the question of who owns the land, right? I've come with my money, say I've got the envelope. So I come and we make a deal with you because you have very prime land here in Nigeria, and according to all predictions, the main road will be passing here, so we know this is going to become a busy place. But then you don't want to sell me your land because maybe you failed to agree with your brother, say it's family land, something like that, but you're willing to lease it to me. Yeah? But then I know that if you give me a lease for 40 years, my property, the plan that I have is planning to exceed beyond that time. Yeah, and I'm imagining all the potential for conflict. You know, you saw the church that got demolished recently and things like that. And I imagine it's the same thing. People say it's corruption and all that, but there are still those minor conflicts that grow. That is a scary thing in Uganda, especially because violence here has not yet been extinguished. You know, violence is still an active option for some people. How do you manage to handle such
I always tell people, don't transact anything of value based on gentleman's agreement. Yeah? Have the lawyers do that. Yeah? That's why they're there. Yeah? Sometimes we think we're saving money, and then we run into bigger problems that you find out that maybe the land was fraudulent or the transaction was doesn't hold water. Yeah? So I always say, use the lawyers. Yeah? They'll draft an agreement that is binding. Yeah? But all I say is that yes, if you're working on a lease, people have this mentality that, you know what, you set up a business and this person says, oh, it's thriving, then they want to renew your lease. That's a risk. Yeah? So you have to calculate, if you have a 5-year lease or if you have a 10-year lease, you make sure your business breaks even in 2 years. So if the guy refuses to renew in the 5th year, well and good, you'll have made profit for 3 years. Yeah, but don't take a 5-year lease and set up a business that recovers in 7. That doesn't make any sense.
Okay.
Yeah, so you have to make sure that you've done your numbers and you believe that the amount of investment you're putting in will recover at least some years before the lease expires. Then that way, if you don't get extension, so bad. But if you're talking 49-year lease, then those will definitely come with titles. So those are more permanent. They're as close to having Milo land. Just that the mentality in Uganda is you own the title in perpetuity. But in Europe, if landlords, they're all on lease. Very, very few, apart from maybe the royals and whatever, will have land that is like on a freehold title, kind of. Yeah.
Oh yeah, so that's a good point. I know I wanted to start a farm in Kamuli for avocado, but because of my resources, I did not want to buy the land. Also, it's a bit far. Very many issues. Okay. But the broker, the guy that was helping me dealing this, was telling me that don't worry, you rent the land because avocado has about 5 years to start getting real profits out of it. But if you plant, say, a whole farm, a forest of those trees, it can go up to even 20 years. And it will, without a lot of maintenance, it can still give you up to 20 years. But what this guy was telling me that, rent the land now, after the first harvest, this man will have problems and, you can keep paying him and paying him and paying him. And that is when I was like, but what if, the man doesn't get those problems? What if now, after 5 years at the climax of my business, the man refuses to renew my rent and I either have to do a malice thing and cut down the forest, or just give him my word.
And cut your losses. Yeah. No, but usually, like if you do a proper agreement, say a lease, you could also have a clause in that lease that you have first right of refusal to purchase. So if he ever gets a problem and needs to sell it, you have the first right, and it could be in a way that you actually have to put it in writing that you're waiving your right for him to sell it. And like I said, this is all stuff that you get with if you have a good lawyer to do. So then when you think that you're saving money, you did with the LC, paying 5,000 shillings, and then tomorrow maybe the LC is not there, or you connive with the guy, and your agreement is null and void.
Let's talk about that lawyer thing. I know for me now, for example, at my age, most of the people I know who I call as my lawyers, I don't have a lawyer per se, but when I need some of those legal documents, the legal services, the people I call are people I went to school with. Yeah, but many of the people in the informal sector, say a person, and again, I've been also trying to get into this entrepreneurship and farming thing. There's a man who I'm renting land from in Bugiri as well. Yeah, but this man he had a good deal about partnering because he has a big family, so he wanted to partner. We bring the money and invest on his land. We were trying to grow groundnuts. but would use his family to do the labor. But instead of renting his land out, which is, I think the value there is around 200,000 a year, he was willing to charge us for the labor and also take a percentage of the profit. Yeah. But when it came to getting now lawyers, I don't imagine a man like that, because I imagine I'm goodwill. We try to settle that in a way that is beneficial for both of us. Yeah. But another person wouldn't probably. Yeah. And you can't, expect the world to have only good people. Where does a man like that access services like this? How does he know that this is a situation where I would need a lawyer to represent me best? And
well, okay, ideally it's good to have a lawyer to do your transaction, but I think I mentioned it a few minutes ago. There has to be some level at which you say, no, after this I'll need a lawyer involved. Yeah. Okay. There'll be transactions you can do, and if you lose, you lose. You want to die. You're not putting in your life savings. If, for instance, in my own example, if I'm going to do a transaction of maybe 10 or 20 million shillings, I could say, no, if I lose this money, I want to die. Yeah. So I could do it even on a gentleman's agreement, that kind of thing. But if I'm going to do something that involves me mortgaging my house, then I need to make sure that it's watertight. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So a similar thing, you could find that the guy, maybe you need to put in 500,000 to do this transaction with him, and say, no, I will risk it. Or maybe we'll just have a simple agreement done with the LC chairperson, and you conclude it. Otherwise, you involve a lawyer at that stage, then probably spend more on the lawyer than the value of the partnership.
Okay, so that I totally understand. Basically, you have to measure how much risk.
You can take on it.
So let's switch a little bit into sort of the global scope. And I want to focus on China right now. From my perspective, I see that when we were growing up, that is one thing that they missed in our curricula, warning us about the potential of China, right? If in fact, because I started school in 96, if in 96 we had access to, say, learning Chinese, I feel like in Africa, if we had that access, we would potentially be at would be better economically. What is your opinion on this rise of China, and do you maybe have any specific opinions on where you think this is going? Do you think this is like a bubble, like we've seen other potential, say, businesses or industries come up? Is China one of those bubbles, or do you think this is the real next big thing?
Well, I think China is going to be unstoppable. Okay. I think their growth is built on serious fundamentals that have been polished and cemented over many years. China, unlike Europe and the US, has not been built on a stock exchange. We know for a fact that if a stock exchange crashes in New York, a lot of, say, America and Europe will go down. China won't. China's progress has been built on hard work, and that you can't take it away from a man. US gets more millionaires from a stock exchange, which is basically perception of, we think this item holds more value, so that we're willing to pay more. So you who bought in last year, you get more money and you become a millionaire. Or in China, they get more millionaires coming out of manufacturing. They get more millionaires coming out of inventing something. So yes, there's perjury and the thing, like copying software here and there. But okay, what tells us why are we not copying it? Why are Africans not copying it? So yes, you will say, but even when you copy, you still have to put in work. You still have to put in some work. You won't just, it's not copy and paste. It's copy, paste, then revise and rebuild. So I think China is going to, I think it's going to be a force to reckon with. One, they have a very big population. Our side population is a resource. It is a market. We've seen what has happened in COVID. Countries are all closed off, and initially I was also worried, thinking, how is China going to survive if they can't export and whatever? But then we realized that, every country is importing PPE, and who is manufacturing the PPE? It's coming from China. Countries in Europe are declaring 17% decline in growth. China is announcing 5%. So it has very serious fundamentals, and I think it's going to go places.
Is Africa better with China on top? Or what do you see if we made projections right now, if any projection would work? a projection where America and most of Europe stays on top, and a projection where China overtakes and becomes the biggest influencer globally and also the biggest economy globally, which is the better situation for Africa?
I think Africa is better with Africa on top.
Obviously.
I think Africa is better
That's also
with Africa on top.
debatable.
Okay, yeah, so I would say Africa is better, much better off with Africa on top. Because trust me, irrespective of what we think of people, even if the Pope was the one on top of Africa, everyone will always have an interest. Everyone will, and there's no one that's going to have a better interest for you than your fellow African. Of course, when you look at our politics and whatever, we get robbed and cheated, or even in business. But our fellow Africans, probably with the help of the Chinese and whatever.
Yeah.
But I believe in the long term, especially with now this COVID, people have realized that, you know what, you're better off investing your money back home. Because, yes, people are sick and they can't travel. People are realizing that if I build a hotel and I'm saying, no, I only want foreigners. No, you don't have foreigners. What are you going to do? You need your fellow Karibalas and Mosokes to come to that hotel. Yeah, so I think it's high time that we start looking at how we improve trade among ourselves as Africans, or even in East Africa alone. We're seeing Tanzania blocking airlines from Kenya. We're seeing Kenya blocking milk from Uganda. Seeing Rwanda blocking shipments from Uganda, which is not good. Like I say, when elephants fight, the grass suffers. There is the everyday person that will suffer the egos of the people who lead us.
Yeah, but if you look at this from, say, a social-political perspective, you see that in Africa and this is again my opinion. You see that in Africa, we sort of hold this risk that if we let Africa grow the same way, say, America is, because people say America is rich, but America has a handful of really rich people who make it seem like America is rich.
Yeah.
The problem in Africa is, since we don't have a legitimate, what would I call it? We do not have that kind of legitimacy with our institutions, including the government, the entire government, whichever part of the government. We worry that if we have one person, say, you, Mr. Bamulinde, you make $1 billion. First of all, to make $1 billion not even enough. Say you make, right now I know people have hundreds of billions. So to make significantly a lot, you have to make like, say, $30 billion, right? If you are worth $30 billion, you have to have a lot of these politicians very close to you as your friends. It doesn't have to. They don't have to be manipulating you in any way, but you have to have them close to get things done. What people worry is, in Africa, if you take, say, Uganda as example, for example, this may sort of put more fire into the ethnical, because Africa is a bit more diverse than most of the countries in Europe and maybe the US as well. Aren't you worried that, the reason why it is slightly better for Africa to first suffer through this hardship?
Yeah, I think actually, we kind of think that Africa is very diverse and say America is not. But probably America is more diverse than Africa. You've got everyone in America. You've got Jews in New York controlling, say, the jewelry trade. You've got the Italians controlling the shipping ports. You've heard of Italian mafia right from the 70s, the Gambinos of this world. And you've got the Irish boys in San Francisco and all that. So much as, yes, there are a lot of white people, but they are all not the same. But what unites them is that they have got some common decency. They've got some things that are like what you would say common sense. And for us here, it's sometimes it's unreal. I'm in Uganda, I say something and it's okay. And if I say it in Nyakore, it's not okay. And that is stupid. As in, if it's common sense, it should be commman sense across the divide.
There is the N word in the US, so you can't blame Africa for that.
I know, but then you've also seen now, even in the movies, when the guys say it and people laugh about it, or comedians say it. It's also one of of course there will always be things and whatever, but I believe our diversity is not as bad as probably in Asia. You go to Indian, say black Indians and
I agree.
white Indians, or Hindustans and Muslim Indians don't see eye to eye. So ours is not that bad, apart from it being fueled by a few politicians here and there. It's not something that I would give so much attention. People have lived. I remember growing up in Bushen, we used to call it Kupakasa. So many people, early 80s, would come to Buganda, work, maybe make some money, buys a bicycle and some soap, and goes back and starts his shop like that. Now he has even seen where to buy that kind of stuff and whatever. Yeah.
I think we can switch to oil and gas as well. What is the potential of this thing? So that right now there is a lot of misinformation. Yeah. First of all, from what I've heard,
there's a lot of rumors.
Yeah, from what I've heard, people are already making money off the oil, and we don't know. We may end up like Gaddafi because of the oil. We may become very rich because of the oil. What is the potential of this thing? What is the exact result of this thing?
Okay, one, oil and gas is going to happen. I used to have a boss, a Dutch guy, who used to tell me that Hillary, for as long as oil is in the ground, it will surely come up. It may take 1 year, it may take 10 years, it may take 30 years. It will surely come up. And I think we're now nearing that time where Uganda's oil and gas prospects are starting to appear that something is going to happen soon. We expect that a final investment decision should happen probably early next year or earlier if all goes well. And that is going to unlock a lot of potential. This is a multi-billion dollar industry. You're looking at the pipeline, the upstream refinery, probably $30-40 billion coming into this economy in a space of 4 or 5 years. That's probably more money than our GDP for the last couple of years. So it's going to be huge. It's going to be big.
What does this mean for the Ugandan? We have 30 billion coming in 5 years. So for me as a border guy, what does that mean for me?
Okay, what it means for you is not going to be direct, but there's going to be a lot of trickle-down effect. Okay. I like using this example, just to simplify it. Right now, a decent apartment in Kolo is $2,500. Yeah. Next year, if oil and gas happens and so many expatriates come into town, those apartments will probably move to $4,000 or even $5,000. Yeah. We've seen it in Rwanda, in Angola, apartments going for $8,000, and it's normal in countries that have experienced an oil boom. So what will happen then is that the guys who are living in Kolo now will move, and they'll probably go to Ntinda. You'll find an apartment in Ntinda that's rented for $2.5 million, now going for $6 million. Or they probably even start now asking for their rent in dollars. Yeah. What will happen is that the guy in Ntinda who will move and go to Chira. So the 800,000 apartment in Chira will move to maybe 2.5 or even 3. The Chira guy will move to Bulindo. You see where I'm heading?
Yeah.
So that trickle down effect will happen. And now the border guy you're talking about, maybe he has his plot somewhere in near Mokono. And instead of him maybe getting 10 million out of it now, he'll probably get 30 out of it because there's going to be a lot of excitement in the real estate sector. There's also going to be a lot of ordinary jobs. A lot of guys you see, like you use the example of a border guy. But he writes the border guy, but maybe he has his proper driving permit, he has a defensive driving certificate. A lot of expatriates are coming into town and will need drivers. Yeah, a lot of expatriate families will need house helps. They can speak maybe some basic English, has knowledge of maybe first aid, can do basic sandwich and that kind of thing. And we're talking about house helps that will be earning $400 a month, which is also what some graduates earn. Doing what swimming in normal jobs. Yeah, so there's going to be a ripple effect. There's going to be a lot of stuff that will reach the common man. If they don't reach him immediately, well, the government is going to be making a lot of income from this oil. And they'll probably do a road passing near their home at some point in the future.
I see. Yeah. So, the big, sort of the big positives for most Ugandans are going to be infrastructure-wise, because this is income that the government can actually invest in directly in the economy. But also, what you call trickle-down is where we are attracting people who have experts who have say money and who are willing to spend more.
Yeah, and it's also when you have, say, we're going to have about almost 10,000 people coming to the country. Yeah. What that means is there's that your brother who drives an airport taxi will probably drive more people in 3 months than he has ever driven in a whole year. That is already income going to that guy. There's going to be a lot of contracts, a lot of jobs, logistics, a lot of shipments coming in, thousands and thousands of trucks coming in. Now these trucks probably park somewhere in Mutumba and buy cassava and chicken, and the guys will realize, I used to sell 2 chickens, nowadays I sell 12. Already that is extra income going to a small village that is not even listed among the say the third tier beneficiaries. There's going to be a lot of ready market for food, fresh vegetables and fruit, because you're going to have a camp of say 5,000 people. That is the main camp. That is the camp for the guys who are going to build the central processing facilities and the upstream intrafield pipeline. But you're going to also have smaller camps for the subcontractors that are all going to need food. So you find that the guy who was producing his vegetables maybe today doesn't sell, tomorrow he sells, they give him this much, that all of a sudden they have ready market and they're buying it at a premium. So you find this family that was maybe earning 300,000 a month from their 3-acre vegetable garden, they're now making $1 million. You see what that means? That it will actually spur people to put in more effort in doing what they're doing, because now they have ready market and they're paying a premium for it. So, and that will create a lot of things. You go to Hoima right now, maybe there's no decent cafe. I can guarantee you can't get a cappuccino in Hoima town. I've been there many times. But when this thing happens, you don't be surprised if you have 10 cafes being set up in Hoima. Same with Fort Portal. You have lodges, because these people don't work they also take breaks. These expatriates we're talking about, they take breaks. So these lodges will probably start telling what now it's $500 a night, because they have so much demand, and that will encourage even the guys with a smaller money to say, we can set up a smaller lodge where maybe we are doing 10 services, that kind of thing. So it will definitely spark growth.
Yeah, but there's this also. So I totally buy your argument on this. There's this whole other argument of the green revolution, global warming and all that, and how oil is becoming extinct. Personally, I don't understand. I've tried to study this global warming science, and I'll be very honest. I believe it because Bill Gates believes it, but the science itself is not very ordinary. I don't understand it, and I understand a little bit of more complex things. But what is the impact of? Because what I know right now for sure is Africa. We've been poor, but we've also been very green. When it comes to the ozone layer, we are the least culprits. But now oil comes to Uganda, and maybe we start refining it. I don't know I don't know how the oil industry, how much of it will be manufactured here actually, how it will influence our manufacturing here, but I imagine it definitely has to influence that. When it comes to global warming and the environment and the future of our children and their children, how?
I think, there's a big push for green energy. I always give this example: when we are poor, we crave meat. When we become rich, we start preaching people you should eat vegetables and be healthy. So the guys who are pushing the green energy, they're the guys who have been on fossil fuels for donkey years. They're the guys who have been using coal that we have never seen. They're the guys who are using all sorts of energies that are more harmful than we have seen. So yes, they're pushing that button, but they're also still very heavily reliant on oil. So yes, the value of oil and whatever may diminish with time, but it's not going to be the next 20 years. Probably 30 years. Where people say but now see we have electric cars. But 60% of what makes the component car an electric car is petrochemical, is byproducts of petrochemical industries. So without oil and gas, there's actually they can't be an electric car, because it's not made from bamboo. It's made from rubber. It's made from plastic. all of which are coming from oil and gas. Yeah. So the direct usage for oil and gas will reduce, but the petrochemical industries are growing and they're becoming bigger.
Yeah,
and that will keep it. Will keep it. Let me tell you that look at the likes of Total. Coming in to invest in Uganda, Total is probably by value, probably bigger than the economy of the whole East Africa, or probably plus a few countries. Yeah. So trust me, they don't put their billions of dollars in something they're not sure they're going to recoup their investment. So yes, they are putting in their money to do to develop this industry because they know they're also going to make their money back.
Yeah. So the money bit, I'm convinced actually that the money is there. But what about the environment? What about the future of our children? If Africa, because China right now, I think they have. When I was working in the UN, there were goals set by China and the West to reduce this agreement in France that Trump wants to exit. The goal was to make sure that the pollution of the ozone layer reduces at a significant rate. But my question is, this is still sustainable right now because at least we have a big chunk of the landmass, Africa. We don't pollute a lot. But if we become among also the polluters, because we have to catch up, and this is the only path forward. I think India has made that argument clear, that they are willing to go green, but if they are well off to go green, right? Isn't this a threat to, and we sort of...
Well, I'm not an environmentalist. It's not one of my strengths. Okay. But I believe that yes, maybe the oil industry may have an impact on the environment. But I also believe that a lot of studies, especially for Uganda's case, have been conducted to mitigate the effect of oil and gas activities. Remember, a lot of these oil wells are going to be in the national park and all that. So a lot of money has gone into studying how the industry, how the environment will be impacted and how it can be mitigated. But I also believe that the oil industry will generate a lot of value for Uganda to enable us maybe fight environmental degradation even better. Because trust me, if we remain as we are now, all these trees will be cut in the next 15 years, 20 years because people need firewood. But if we develop a petrochemical industry, maybe we start having piped gas going into people's homes. And maybe people won't need firewood anymore. That kind of thing. So we have more trees growing or regeneration that will neutralize the impact of oil and gas. I'll give you an example from back in the day. I worked for an oil company who had a lion that died near an oil well, and it was a very big disaster. We had to fly in experts from many countries. I think we spent about $5 million to have that investigation done. Yes, it turned out it died near the oil well, but it was not from the chemicals and the activities related to the oil well. But all that went in because people wanted to see what actually killed that lion. So that gives you an idea on how serious the oil companies take the environment that they operate in. I know out of Uganda and say, those are billions of shillings for just one dead lion. We could even kill more lions for if you give us that money. I think the operators are quite responsible operators, and they're going to take care of this environment.
Well, so for the people who are at university right now, or people who have siblings in secondary school, for example, where would they focus to reap big from this? If they want to be one of the biggest reapers, come their time in this emergent industry, where do you think they should focus in terms of education and maybe?
You remember what I told you in the beginning of this conversation of what made me money? Information.
Yes.
So irrespective of what you're studying, information.
Yes.
I may have done a lot of things that have nothing to do with my profession. When I was in the O level, I used to be very good in sciences, and I used to think I would be a doctor or an engineer. But then I realized, why should I stress myself? I can pass geography and history with 98% without reading, but I have to read to get 85 in geography. Sorry, in biology or chemistry. So I said, no, let me take the easy path. And that's how I've always taken my life. Do the easy things, don't complicate life. So irrespective of what you're studying, information, gather information, research. Because like I said, yes, you don't have to be an oil and gas engineer. I could probably make more money supplying vegetables to the oil and gas industry than an oil and gas engineer who has a job. And that I'll do because of information. I'll go and get my farmers in Masindi, work with them. I invest in packaging. I get a few young people to study a bit of how do we prepare these vegetables, which is basically just washing and packing. And I'll make more money from that because of information. Yeah, so whatever anyone is studying, I say, yes, keep doing that. But now start studying. Look at the Nigerian story. People have internet. People have phones. But people use their phones just for betting and creating memes. But there's a lot of information. Read about the story of Rwanda in Angola. Look at how it was affected. Look at Mozambique right now. Mozambique is like... it's crazy. So many expatriates are pouring in. You ask yourself, if 5,000, say 2,000 expatriates moved into Kampala, how can I make money from these guys? One, they will need mates, they will need drivers. You have guys who at university have done human resource who have thought of, I could start my agency right now without investing in any office space and whatever. I create a website, very little money. I collect people's CVs that are specialized in item X. Maybe I collect CVs for people who are interested in nanny services. And I'll market myself as someone who provides nanny services. And I'll have a good website. I'll have people who come in maybe for 1 week. I invest a little bit of money in training them. When these people come and say, we are looking for nannies, who are they going to? When they go to Google, say, nannies in Uganda. It's your website that comes up. And something as simple as that. I could do that for drivers. I could do that for turn boys. I could do that for operators of equipment who are not even there. I could do that for specialized oil and gas, like wireline logging engineers or reservoir engineers. And I have a database and say, I know Ugandans in Texas. I know Ugandans in Denmark. And you've not gone there. All you need is the website, do a little bit of social media marketing, and people will send you their CVs. You will save them. You will package them. Tomorrow you'll be the go-to guy for that specialist service. What? Information.
But so I think you're very persuasive right now. I don't know whether that is where I'm believing you. But this still feels too easy because why then aren't other people doing it? And I know, for example, one of the things maybe you've not actually hit on a lot is access to credit. I know that many people here, like even myself, if I get my small money and I invest it and I miss, I have to work for another 4 years to get an equivalent of that money so I can try again. And if I do try and error every after 4 years, that is just not sustainable. What is it that, because I see, for example, for yourself, you've managed to use this information to bet big. But where have you got that foundation from?
Okay. Yeah. Oh, well, of course, there's it didn't all happen overnight. Like I said, personally, I came back, of course, with a bit of savings, which was quite a bit back in the day. I started with buying and flipping land. I started with importing and flipping item XY that people need. But then when it comes to raising capital, yes, minus using banks. Banks are good, but you have to be very careful. You have to be very sure of what you're borrowing for if you go to the bank. Personally, what has worked for me is social capital. You have friends around you, you have family. I have a lot of loans. I have huge loans that sometimes they run into billions. That is people's money. But one thing that if you're trustworthy and you pay back, people will always lend you. And some may not work. The item X may not work. And maybe you've used people's money. But you have to make sure that now if I use Hillary's money here and it didn't work, James's money I put here, if it works, what would have been my profit? It should be going into killing that. Not feel like, because you should pay yourself. And that's, I think, one thing that kills us as Ugandans. That you borrow 10 million, then the moment it hits your pocket, it is your money. That's when you also see the person buying a black label. You also want it because you think you have money. So that respect to be able to separate your money and people's money is something that takes a heart, but it's a very good trait to have. And that's something that has worked for me. Because I have so many people, I have so many friends that I can call now and say I need amount X. And the person will say, you know what, let's meet at 3 or pick it tomorrow morning. Because they have built that trust. And a lot of people lose that. Because He borrows 1 million from me and thinks, oh, Hillary has money, so if I don't pay him, it's no big deal. One funny thing, yes, I forget the amount I lent you, but I never forget who I lent money.
Exactly.
So I always know that, X has my money. I may not remember it. So yesterday, a caddy came to me crying and, Mr. Bamulinde, here is the money you lent me during COVID. And I thought I had forgotten about it because it was very little. And I told him, no, it's okay, you can keep it. But now that guy, I'm not going to forget him. If he ever comes back to me for a loan, I'll give it to him.
Yeah,
because he showed trust. That is one thing we lack.
That is a good
that trust.
formula.
And also to learn that, people's money is not your money. Even bank money is not your money. People borrow 1 billion shillings from the bank to complete a structure, and the first thing it does is buy a car. Buy an air ticket to go to Dubai, which was not part of because the money has hit the account, all of a sudden it feels like your money. So once you learn to appreciate what is yours and what is not yours, you will go far in using that money to build something.
Yeah, let's actually first zero back on one thing. I know I'm following you on social media a while back, and I don't know if you still do that because I've been off it a bit. But you've been giving people money. Yeah. What are you calculating here, Hillary? Is there something? Tell us so we also start giving. If there's something you know.
No. Well, I'm not into politics. I'm not chasing any clout. I don't need it. There's nothing I have that I get from social media. Okay. But once in a while I come through for people who have a need. Sometimes you really see that someone has a genuine need, or maybe someone needs to go for an operation. They need 500,000, and if I have it on that day, I'm happy to raise it. Of course, it's social media. Sometimes you tell someone, no, I'll help, please don't mention it. Then a day later, someone throws it there, and you're not going to delete their tweet for them. But naturally, I come from a very disadvantaged background. One thing I didn't mention at the beginning, I was orphaned at a very young age, so I was helped by many people. So I know what it means to lack. I know what it means to have nothing. I don't help people so they can talk about me. I can do that like other people do and call media and have photos taken, but that's not me.
But is there some value in this? And I'm not. So I understand you may do it from your heart, but from what I know about what people usually call their heart is these again heuristics that they plant over time, right? Say for example, I really don't know. People who speak nicely, for example, they may say this is who I am. But this is because growing up, they've gotten better feedback from speaking calmly than raising their voices. Is this something that in the long run is better for you as a person?
Okay, personally, naturally, I love helping. Maybe it's informed by the fact that I'll also help by people who are strangers to me. So in my helping, in me, I'm thinking that maybe this person at some point will also be in position to help and say, because I was helped, I should also be able to help so and so. And I've seen very rich, stingy people, and I've seen very generous people. And I always say, no one ever became poor from giving. And if it doesn't hurt, it's not giving. If I go for a wedding function, I'm not going to pick the smallest note or the dirty one and say I'm giving. No, it has to be. You know what? I'm going to forego that lunch date or that Friday night out and give this money. Otherwise, I could say no. 20k, everyone is giving 20k. So they say naturally, it's just that you're hoping that maybe one person will be, maybe 1 out of 10 will remember that at some point and help out someone else. But also, it feels good. It actually feels good to help someone, especially when you probably will never need anything from that person, or you'll never get help from that person.
So I think this has been a very good conversation, and as we conclude, Hillary, I've really enjoyed speaking to you.
Thank you.
And I'll probably make some more time to speak to you even off the camera and off these microphones. If people wanted to reach you out, what would they be reaching out for? So if people say, watch this podcast on YouTube, or they listen to our podcast on Apple Music, and they find you extremely interesting as I have, what do you think is the most reasonable what is a thing that would be reasonable to reach out to you for? I know you're in oil and gas, you're in real estate, and you have a lot of other businesses. But why would I come to you?
I would say if you have an interest in oil and gas, if you have an interest in real estate, reach out. I visit a lot of people's sites. People call me to look at their sites and give them ideas on maybe on finishing, on how to get lighting, on what appropriate plumbing materials use. Yes, I can always schedule. Of course, I don't do it for money, so it's not something I can't visit everyone's site.
Yeah,
maybe 2-3 times in a month. Yes, I can visit. But yeah, mainly normal investments. You can reach out. Oil and gas, there's going to be a lot of stories about oil and gas. If you hear something and maybe you need to understand it better, you want to understand how you could enter it or how you could partner, there's going to be a lot of joint ventures flying around. You want to know how you can form a joint venture. Yeah, I'm happy to advise. If you want to know how to spend your money, I can also advise. I believe I have a little bit of experience spending it.
Thank you very much, Hillary,
All right,
for coming to our podcast. Thank you very much for agreeing to be a guest. Yes,
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay.